The relentless hum of New York City traffic was Ethan's daily lullaby, a constant reminder of the life he had built, and the one he was losing. At 32, he was a successful graphic designer, surrounded by the concrete and steel that once symbolized ambition, but now felt like a cage. His days were a blur of deadlines, subway rides, and superficial interactions, leaving him emotionally drained and spiritually hollow. Ethan's motivation for change sparked during a particularly grueling project, where he found himself staring at a computer screen for hours, his creativity stifled and his soul yearning for something more. He struggled with deep-seated fears of failure and self-doubt, wondering if he was capable of anything beyond the corporate ladder. The initial challenge was daunting, leaving behind a stable career, friends, and the familiar comforts of city life to embark on a solo road trip across the United States, with no clear destination in mind. Packing his old Jeep with essentials, Ethan set out on a crisp autumn morning, the city skyline shrinking in his rearview mirror. His first stop was the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, where the vibrant fall foliage offered a stark contrast to the gray monotony of urban life. As he hiked through state parks, the physical exertion mirrored his internal struggle. Each step was a battle against the anxiety that whispered he was making a mistake. He coped by journaling his thoughts, pouring out his fears onto paper, and gradually, the act of writing became a form of therapy. In the quiet moments by campfires, he confronted his self-doubt, realizing that his worth wasn't tied to productivity or external validation. This small victory fueled his resilience, and he pushed onward, driven by a growing curiosity about the world beyond the city. Crossing into the Midwest, the vast expanses of farmland and open skies brought a sense of freedom Ethan hadn't felt in years. He volunteered at a community farm in Iowa, where the simplicity of planting seeds and nurturing growth taught him patience and the beauty of slow, steady progress. Here, he met an elderly farmer named Harold, whose weathered hands and gentle wisdom left a lasting impression. Over shared meals, Harold spoke of life cycles, of sowing and reaping, not just in crops, but in the soul. Sometimes, the hardest ground yields the richest harvest, Harold said, a phrase that resonated deeply with Ethan. It was a turning point. He began to see his journey not as an escape, but as a quest for inner cultivation. The emotional weight of his past started to lift, replaced by a burgeoning sense of empowerment as he learned to trust his instincts and embrace uncertainty. As he ventured into the deserts of Arizona, the stark, arid landscape mirrored the emptiness he once felt, but now it felt transformative. Under the vast, star-filled sky, Ethan spent nights in meditation, grappling with feelings of loneliness and fear. He remembered coping mechanisms from his city life, distractions like social media and work, but here, he had no choice but to face himself. In those silent moments, he discovered an inner strength he never knew he possessed. The psychological shift was profound. He stopped seeing challenges as obstacles and began viewing them as opportunities for growth. A hike through the Grand Canyon tested his physical limits, but with each arduous step, he felt a clarity emerging, as if the layers of stress and doubt were being stripped away, revealing a core of resilience and wisdom. The climax of his journey came in the redwood forests of California, where the towering ancient trees seemed to whisper secrets of endurance and peace. Walking among them, Ethan felt a profound connection to something greater than himself, a spiritual awakening that filled him with hope and purpose. He realized that his travels weren't just about geography, but about navigating the landscapes of his own heart. The lessons he learned, from the patience of the farmer to the solitude of the desert, culminated in a transformative insight. True clarity comes not from avoiding life's struggles, but from embracing them with an open heart. In that moment, he made a decision to return to New York, not as the same man who left, but as someone reborn, ready to infuse his old life with new meaning. The journey ended where it began, but Ethan was forever changed. He started a small design studio focused on sustainable projects, using his art to inspire others and foster community. The wisdom he gained, that resilience is built through small, consistent acts of courage, and that inner peace is found in the spaces between chaos, became the foundation of his new life. His story is a testament to the human spirit's ability to rise from the concrete confines of fear to the clarity of self-discovery, reminding us all that every journey, no matter how difficult, holds the potential for profound transformation and hope. Break time equals fives, greater than the rain was falling in steady, gray sheets against the window pane of Maya's small apartment in the heart of the city, a rhythm that matched the dull ache in her chest. For 10 years, she had been a marketing manager at a firm she loved, her identity tightly woven into the fabric of deadlines, presentations, and the satisfying click of a well-executed campaign. But 3 months ago, the company downsized, and Maya found herself among the casualties, handed a severance package and a hollow good luck that felt more like a farewell to a part of herself she hadn't realized was so fragile. At first, the days blurred into a haze of job applications and rejection emails, each one chipping away at her confidence. She'd wake up with a knot of anxiety in her stomach, scrolling through job boards until her eyes burned, her mind racing with thoughts of failure and the mounting bills that seemed to mock her from the kitchen counter. The once familiar streets of her neighborhood now felt alien, filled with people rushing to places she no longer belonged, and the silence in her apartment was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional ping of another "we've decided to move forward with another candidate" message. Maya's initial optimism had curdled into self-doubt. She questioned her skills, her worth, and whether she had anything left to offer the world. She coped by keeping busy, cleaning obsessively, baking batches of cookies she had no appetite for, and avoiding calls from well-meaning friends who asked about her job search with pity in their voices. But deep down, she knew this wasn't living, it was surviving, and barely at that. One particularly bleak afternoon, as she sat staring at a half-finished resume, a memory surfaced from her childhood, her grandmother, a woman who had immigrated with nothing, telling her, "Maya, sometimes the path isn't clear until you start walking. Fear is just a sign you're about to grow." Those words, long forgotten, sparked a flicker of something, not hope, not yet, but a stubborn curiosity. What if she stopped fighting the uncertainty and leaned into it? What if this wasn't an end, but a beginning she hadn't asked for? That night, she made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. She would take a break from the job hunt and do something she'd always put off: volunteer at a local community garden she passed every day. The first time she showed up, her hands trembled as she pulled on gloves, feeling out of place among the seasoned gardeners who moved with a quiet confidence. The soil was cool and damp under her fingers, and as she learned to weed and plant seedlings, something shifted. The physical labor grounded her, pulling her out of her head and into the present moment. She met people from all walks of life, retirees, students, others like her who were searching for something, and their stories of resilience, of starting over after loss or illness, began to seep into her soul. One day, while tending to a patch of sunflowers, she struck up a conversation with an elderly man named Mr. Chen, who had lost his business years ago and found solace in gardening. "You know," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners, "these plants don't worry about the future. They just grow toward the light, no matter how rocky the soil. We could learn from that." His words resonated deeply, and Maya realized that her fear had been holding her back from seeing the possibilities around her. She started to experiment, taking online courses in sustainability and urban farming, topics she'd always been curious about but never had time for. It wasn't easy. There were days when the old doubts crept back, whispering that she was wasting her time, that she should be focusing on a real job. But she pushed through, reminding herself that growth often happens in the messy, uncertain spaces. She began documenting her journey in a journal, not as a record of failures, but as a map of her inner landscape, the moments of despair, the small victories, the gradual dawning that her worth wasn't tied to a title or a paycheck. Months passed, and the garden became her sanctuary. She proposed a project to the community, turning a vacant lot into a shared vegetable patch for neighbors in need. It required planning, fundraising, and collaboration, skills she hadn't realized she still possessed. The first harvest day was a crisp autumn morning, the air filled with the scent of ripe tomatoes and the laughter of children picking carrots. As she stood there, surrounded by people whose lives she had touched, Maya felt a surge of empowerment she hadn't known was possible. This wasn't the life she had planned, but it was richer, more meaningful. She had discovered that resilience isn't about avoiding falls, it's about learning to rise, again and again, with a heart that's a little wiser and a spirit that's a little stronger. The climax came when she was offered a part-time job coordinating local sustainability initiatives, a role that blended her old skills with her new passions. But more importantly, she had found a sense of purpose that went beyond a career. It was about connection, contribution, and the quiet wisdom that sometimes, the most beautiful paths are the ones we never see coming. In the end, Maya learned that loss can be a gateway to something greater, if we have the courage to walk through the fear. Her story is a reminder that within each of us lies an untapped well of strength, waiting for the moment we decide to start digging. So, if you ever find yourself in the shadows, remember, the unseen path is often the one that leads you home to yourself.